Today we are covering how to sell cybersecurity without being expert. I'm your host, Paul Burke. Adam Burke, VP of Sales and Partnerships, is here to provide all the smart stuff. I'm just here to introduce and say hello. A couple things you should know. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat and we can answer those at the end. We'll have a Q&A portion towards end. Also, if you are here, you are entered into a drawing for a gift card. That will be done at the end, so stay through to the end for the gift card drawing. Also, shameless plug, if you ever want to catch Adam and I, we do the incident report every week, and that's a podcast available Spotify. You know the places you find podcasts. You can find us there. Adam, am I forgetting anything? I think I'm covering everything.
No, we got some we got some great questions already sent in that we're definitely going to cover towards the end. If you have any, like Paul said, please throw them into the chat and we'll get to as many questions as we can. And yeah, we're excited to be here. This is Bootcamp number 2 in our series of 6 boot camps. This one is around how to sell cybersecurity services without being an expert. Had some great initial questions and some great responses from the channel community around how to engage and those types of things. So we wanted to jump into how Quest does it, how we like to engage, and what we can recommend as far as how to start that conversation with your clients. So super excited about that. And yeah, Paul, should we go ahead and get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. So jumping right into it today. What we're going to be covering, how to sell cybersecurity without being an expert, and what we'll be covering. Cybersecurity is one of those services. It's a topic that's top of mind at all times. I just got a LifeLock notification this morning from a certain hotel chain that happened to get breached. So if you're a LifeLock member, you probably got that same notification. So we're seeing these things every day. I just got my little notification about 5 minutes ago before hopping on here. But fear, uncertainty, and doubt is a great potential starting conversation. But we're going to kind of talk a little bit about how do we move beyond that? How do we move beyond the cool, war stories and all that kind of stuff, and actually get into what we're trying to do is help the clients and make money, right? So how are we going to do that together? How do you move beyond that FUD conversation? If you happen to join our webinar last week, you understand a little bit about Quest strategy, but we're going to continue with that. And we're looking for trouble. We're looking for pain. We're looking for areas where people maybe need some help. Maybe they don't know where to get the help. And cybersecurity is a big pain area for folks right now trying to survive, operate, and manage their organization. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to look for pain. And then we're also going to be, how we stay in touch. How do we stay relevant? Things happen very quickly. How do you get that phone call? How do you escalate? How do you respond quickly? And how do you stay in touch with things that are relevant to your customers? Things where hopefully you're going to walk away with today is a little bit about our approach to cybersecurity. It's not the only approach. It's not necessarily the, everyone's kind of got different strategies, but we want to share with you how we like to engage and how we like to approach the market. And then, how to look for those trouble and pain points with your customers. And then a little bit around the fundamentals. There's a lot, when people say cybersecurity, there's a lot that goes into that. What's relevant? What are some of the basic fundamentals you can start those conversations with clients and get involved in their cybersecurity practice? And then, as far as skills, let's start the conversation. Comfortably start the conversation. You don't have to be the expert to start the conversation. If you have a general interest and curiosity in helping your customers, it's going to be appreciated. Doesn't matter if they're an enterprise or an SMB, start the conversation. And then, if you don't know the answer, hey, I don't know the answer to that, but let me go find it for you and build that trust and that credibility with your clients. So that's what we're covering today. A little bit around why organizations are looking for help in cybersecurity and some mixed messages that we're seeing out there in the marketplace. And not to beat up on vendors or OEMs or manufacturers or suppliers or anything like that, but there's some mixed messages going out there in the market right now. There's the silver bullet conversation. There's the plug and play. There's this product or this license or this new feature is going to save your life. Um, that's a great story. It's marketing, but there's no specific product. There's no specific OEM. There's no manufacturer. There's nothing out there in the market that is going to protect your clients from their own mistakes and from their people's mistakes and from bad actors trying to breach, right? So there are no silver bullets. So anytime someone says silver bullets, it's a real challenge. It's a little bit of a mixed message. Cybersecurity is a daily practice with multiple layers and multiple areas where people have to maintain their security posture at all times. Sometimes people are trying to sell things, and when they're trying to sell things, they kind of tell a really cool story, really high-end capabilities, great stuff. Just be really careful around that. Drill down into the actual day two support and ask those questions with your customers around, how are you actually planning on managing this application, managing this edge device, managing this security appliance day two? Really, really great capabilities, but if you're not trained in operating that platform, doesn't matter how cool your weapon system is. If you don't have someone to operate the weapon system, you have a brick. Okay, so and there are a lot. I don't know who's going to RSA. If anyone was raise their hands, going to RSA coming up here in a little while. Big security conference on the West Coast. Tons of point products, tons of solutions out there. But what we try to focus on is, what does that point product or that solution actually mean to the business, right? So you have SASE solutions, right? You have zero trust network, right? Zero trust network access. How is that zero trust capability actually going to help an end user, right? How is multi-factor authentication going to support a client, right? What does this actually do for the business? Yes, multi-factor authentication is great. I don't know if anyone banks like with Chase Bank or Wells Fargo or any of the large banking institutions. Some people roll out multi-factors, some people don't. How does that affect your access to your own bank accounts? Simple stuff like that. Do you feel protected when your banking institution decides to roll out multi-factor, or does it annoy you? Back to the fear, uncertainty, and doubt and the FUD conversations. It's classic that executives and people get a little frustrated maybe with some of these security features. And one of the areas we're seeing people get breached more often than not is they get frustrated with some of these aspects of their business. It's not necessarily seamlessly integrated or easy to use, and they just turn off the security feature. So how do we avoid that? How do we help them make it easy? And how do we make it simple for them to use these products, right? So these are some of the buzzwords. If you're going to RSA, you're probably going to hear 50 more different new buzzwords. If you got any cool buzzwords, you want to share them with us. Those are great too, but really want to focus on how does it affect the business. Every purchaser is going to have different drivers. Why are you investing in this security feature, right? You have different buyers all the time. We talked about it last week. Some people are even keel, they understand their operations, they're comfortable with their platforms, and maybe they're not going to move very quickly. Some people are in growth mode. They're just buying everything they can under the sun to try to keep the growth stable in their organization. Some people might be a little bit arrogant and a little bit over their skis as far as their capabilities. And then some people might be in some kind of trouble, some kind of pain, some kind of breach, some incident going on right now. They don't really know what's going on. And then there's different leadership within every organization, right? There's the technical buyers out there. They're going to be looking for Gartner reports. They're going to be looking for, industry best practices. They're going to be looking for analysts to kind of share their thoughts of what's the best of breed out there. What are their peers doing, right? So there's ways to help organizations like that. Financial buyers, CFOs, they're in the risk management category. They're looking at, okay, what's the downside of this potential threat, right? If I don't upgrade to a zero trust environment, what's the potential risk to my business? If I don't move to a SASE based solution or secure my endpoints with next generation platforms and next generation AV, how does that affect my business? And then, do I have a predictable cost model? We've been engaged with clients who spent millions of dollars buying all sorts of software and hardware assets, only to not configure them, not deploy them, and not manage them and end up getting breached. And, we're sitting in a CFO's office having the conversation with him. He's pretty frustrated that he's been out there acquiring, parts and pieces, didn't really have a, effective deployment strategy or management strategy, and it kind of ended up in the same place he would anyways. And then you have the owners and the people who have, fiduciary responsibilities for the actual business, right? How are they managing that brand? How are they avoiding those risks? So again, not to beat up on vendors or OEMs, they're great, they're fantastic. But again, like we talk about in marketing, paper does not refuse ink. Okay. A lot of people are going to try to get you to go in there and expose and generate a need, or ask the perfect question that's just going to spark that purchase order to just come flowing through and raining down cash on you. I've never seen it happen. There's really, really good ways to have conversations about what they're dealing with from a business standpoint and areas you can help. But in our experience, we found having basic conversations around specific examples of what we've seen other organizations deal with is much better than trying to lead the buyer down a specific path with some FUD. So what we like to do is every week we send out like a specific example or a use case of what we've seen happen in the market. And we're sending those use cases and those summaries out to our customers and partners, just as hey, let's have a simple conversation. Are you dealing with this 0-day threat? Have you seen this new patch requirement that came out from XYZ vendor? How are you planning on deploying that? Just those conversations really can kind of get you into a agnostic conversation, not necessarily a brand specific conversation. Going to cover this really, really quick, and you'll see why in a second. A lot of different things. This is a little bit of a just tiny 2-second commercial that we do from a security operations and network operations standpoint. There are a lot of words on this page here, right? There's a ton, right? We 24/7 monitoring, application integration and database monitoring, network servers. We create custom reports. We can help with fault prevention. We do remote network health monitoring, so we can check traffic and usability and all that great stuff, right? Very, very cool. Been doing this for 25 years. This slide right here never sells anything, because clients look at that and they look at it and they're like, well, that's cool. You guys do patch management and you guys, can proactively and comprehensively, manage a server environment. Cool. This is table stakes. This is basically, if you're in the security business and you're helping organizations monitor their network operation or their network and their security operations, this is table stakes, right? But all of these together, blending these together in a way that's usable, is where you can differentiate, right? Being able to do custom reporting with an application monitoring and bundling in a couple other building blocks, very, very important. But how do you get to this conversation? How do you actually get to this? Because you can't just jump into an organization and say, hey, we have a great security operations in NOC, and you should trust us to monitor your network. It never happens that way. I would love it if it would, but it never actually happens that way. So tactically, how do we as sales professionals get involved in that conversation? What we've found, works really well is, focus on very, very specific areas to start the engagement, right? So Quest has been doing this for 27 years from a security standpoint. Started in the mid-90s, helping folks out monitor and alert their environments. But what we found is that helping organizations check, monitor, and review their existing environments, everybody has something. Everybody has some type of an AV solution deployed. Everyone has a firewall. Everyone has, some level of monitoring of their systems. Everyone has hopefully some type of DNS solution that monitors where and how their people access, sites on the internet. Hopefully everyone has some type of a remote workforce, VPN, ZTNA, remote working session, hosted VDI. Everybody has technology deployed. No one's for the most part, I don't think, on pencil and paper and maybe go into a digital environment. Everyone's there at some level. So what we've done is we built out checkups that specifically target about 7 areas where we see people get into a little bit of trouble, right? So we built out a cybersecurity checkup program where you go in and you ask them if they would like help evaluating and taking a quick look under the hood in these seven areas. It's not a super complicated engagement. It's not a very expensive engagement. We bundle all 7 of them. If you look down here at the bottom, all 7 of them together for about $4,100. Each one's about $775 per building block. All right. And these are things around their firewalls, their patching, their endpoint protection, how their remote users are accessing their environment. So VPN, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on solutions, their DNS protection. So if they're using something that's managing where and how their users are connecting to other sites on the internet. And then a huge one that a lot of people like, this has saved a lot of people's bacon when they get into an IR, is backups, right? Quest has been doing DR as a service and DR for years. One of the biggest disasters that organizations are suffering through right now is cybersecurity breaches and incidents. And one of the best ways to survive that is having, competent and recoverable and accessible backups of your environment. It's not pleasant to restore everything from an immutable copy. It's not a fun experience you necessarily want to go through, but it can save organizations' businesses. So one of our checkups that's probably one of the most popular is we check their backups. We check their backup configurations, their jobs, their schedules, and do they have an off-net immutable copy of their backups? The bad actors are very smart. They understand that if they encrypt an environment and lock down your environment and you don't have a backup copy, you are going to have to pay that ransom or you're going to lose that data. If you do have a backup copy, you can basically start fresh and it's not compromised. You can rebuild from that backup or that replicated copy as long as it's not compromised. That happened a lot, and that was a great recovery way for people to recover from bad actors encrypting their key applications. Bad actors got smart and they started targeting those backup systems, right? They're businesses just like we are. They move and adjust just like everyone else does. So the next thing that people have to do is the bad actors target their backup systems. How are we recovering now? If your backups are encrypted and your controllers are encrypted and your managing servers are encrypted, how do you back up now? Well, an off-net immutable copy of that backup is something that when we do a checkup, we really drill down on with customers and say, hey, it's great you have a local copy of your backup. It's great you're sending backup jobs to the cloud. How are you securing that backup in an off-net immutable fashion? Not expensive. It's not an expensive investment. It's not a huge investment for them. It's a great insurance policy for them to have. But those are the kind of conversations, those are the kind of recommendations we come back with after we do these cybersecurity checkups. Now, email security is the last one. I'd say a significant, about 60 to 70% of the incidents that we see happen through some type of an email phishing attack, or someone clicks the link. Again, no silver bullets out there. If you have people on your network, you have people who have access to your applications, and they click and they download malicious software, you're in trouble. So you got to have those layers. You got to have the rest of these layers in place to help prevent against the human firewall aspect of things. So from sales perspective, we're all sales professionals here. What we're seeing, we've been running these cybersecurity checkups for about the last 2 years. 90% of our engagements have transitioned to incremental services. So every single checkup that we do, 9 out of 10 of them will transition to a different service. Part of our recommendations are how to improve, how to adjust, and potential services that can help them down the road, right? So if they have email security and they're buttoned up on email security, They have DNS deployed, their VPNs are squared away, but maybe they need to replace their endpoint product from a security standpoint. Maybe they need help with patching their systems, right? Patching is an entry point. No one necessarily likes to do it. No one likes to deal with it. It's kind of like help desk. You kind of don't want to be, a lot of people in the IT world don't necessarily want to be, running help desk for end users all day long. And a lot of people don't want to be patching systems. It's not where they want to be. We automate that. We can out-task that. And a lot of people take us up on helping them with just managing their patches. So again, huge conversion rate, simple engagement. Hey, would you like to bring in some experts to help take a look at one of these 7 areas? We can do 1, we can do 3, we can do all 7. It takes about 2 weeks. We get an engineer on the line, do a review with them, document an executive summary. Very, very simple, standard, kind of streamlined engagement for folks. And the other kind of area that I don't think is well known in the middle market or SMB market, enterprise groups for the most part have this baked out. Some don't, but incident response. So the other area that's really a great place to get involved, or at least make sure your customers are aware that you can help them in the event of an emergency, is 24/7 incident response. So if you get anything out of this webinar, please write this down. We'll be sending it out. IR, the letters IR at questsys.com. That is a 24/7 incident response distro that goes to our emergency services and can get engineers and remote support spun up very, very quickly, 24/7, 365. We've had multiple incidents kick off this month alone, helping organizations recover. And there are not a lot of incident response organizations out there that can get boots on the ground dispatched, can respond, for a non-customer, within 15 minutes to an hour, get engineers on the call and help resolving issues. We take all types. We have the proactive approach where we can be on an IR retainer. We can help them map out an IR plan. We can write that all out for them. We can have the tools in place. We can build out the entire platform, do all the consulting, all that kind of stuff, yada, yada. That's great. But majority of folks, unfortunately, don't necessarily take advantage of that. They kind of wait for the break glass moment. And that break glass moment is something that we're ready and available to help on. So 2 areas that are, I think, underserved is simple engagements to help people with what they have right now. I'm not going to try to sell them something new. I'm not going to try to position some new firewall or new endpoint product or new DNS or anything like that. Hey, what do you have now? Let's help you with what you have now and write some recommendations for you as far as how you can improve your position with our cybersecurity checkups. Great entry point. And hey, Mr. Customer, when it hits the fan, when you need containment, when you need to help rebuild your systems, when you need help dealing with the bad actors, malware, cybersecurity, forensics, when you need help as an emergency, make sure they know you can help them. Make sure they know that, hey, in the event of emergency, you don't necessarily ever want to have this happen to you, but if you need emergency response services, you definitely have that, through your partnership with Quest and through the ability for us to engage. So those are 2 very, very simple areas that you can just have a high level conversation with your customers on. Let's take a look at what you have. And in the event there's an emergency, if you don't know who to call, if you need a 911 response, we can help you. Yeah, moving on beyond the cyber defense suite, and the cybersecurity checkups and the incident response. These are some of the open-ended questions that we like to lead with around, again, we're not drilling in on, hey, do you think this firewall is better than this one, or do you think this SASE product is better than this one? You definitely can go down that path if you need to, But just having the open-ended questions, get them talking about their cybersecurity practice, get them talking about, what they're dealing with, right? So, there's the idea of, a business impact analysis, for a breach. A lot of cybersecurity insurance providers are changing their rules. Cybersecurity insurance is getting much, much more expensive, and much more invasive into validating and confirming what people actually have deployed. It used to be kind of a, check the box. Yes, I have MFA. Yes, we have, backups, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we adhere to NIST standards. They're actually having people, come in and audit that, right? They're having people come in and review that. That's not just a pencil whip activity anymore. And organizations are needing help validating and being able to attest that, hey, we have multi-factor authentication deployed. Here's the proof, and here's how we're enforcing it. Cool, great. Now we can check that box. One of the things we constantly see is just basic monitoring and alerting. You'd think that these, applications and, this has been kind of table stakes for a really long time. But people are having a tough time tuning and managing all the alerts that are coming from all the different systems. So everything that's touching their network, all their different applications, everyone's got some version of SaaS these days, whether it's Microsoft or G Suite or AWS or their own homegrown applications. How are they monitoring that performance? How are they actually getting, usable feedback from that? Those are great conversations. Most people, when they're honest about it, in the middle market, I'd say, 60 to 7% of the people we're talking to are struggling to get, good actionable feedback, from their different applications and understanding what's happening where, at all times. Visibility continues to be a huge challenge. So if you can get them talking about that, ask that question. And then the ways that, the ways you can engage to remediate that is obviously, services around monitoring, alerting, and then application development and tuning of their platforms, right? Same approach we talked about with the cyber security checkups. You don't necessarily have to go in and rip and replace whatever they've built. Just going in and helping them tune, operate, manage, and maintain what they've built is a great option as well, right? So kind of being that trusted advisor. What are you dealing with? What do you have? And what do you need help with is a great opportunity. From a SIM standpoint, that kind of it's better again. That event management and correlation has been around a very long time. It's, Splunk just got acquired by Cisco, so we'll see what happens with that platform. I think that just got approved, a couple $2 billion. Congratulations. We'll see how that platform continues to evolve. You got Microsoft Sentinel. You got all sorts of Logarithm, all sorts of platforms that have been out there in the wild for a very long time. Managing those, monitoring those, getting actionable data and alerts from them. You got firms like Arctic Wolf out in the wild, providing, feedback to clients in their own SOC operations. So tons of cool products out there. Again, how are those actually affecting the business? How are those being managed? Are they getting the data they want from them? These are the conversations that can lead to a lot of ongoing services, right? It can start small with a professional services engagement. Hey, let's take a look at how you're getting those alerts, from your current SIM instance. Let's take a look at how you're logging these events. Let's take a look at how you're correlating things. Just ask that question. Hey, do you want someone to come in and check how that deployment's going? And like we talked about on our last boot camp, if any of these products have been sold and you were maybe competing for the refresh or the firewall or the SASE deployment, or maybe the network core upgrade, or I know we got all sorts of trusted advisors listening in from different segments. Maybe you help with data center operations, maybe you help with telecommunications, maybe you help with the edge devices or procurement. Just because you miss out on that initial engagement, stay in touch. A lot of those projects fail to meet their stated objectives. we got some great questions on our last boot camp around the idea that about 70% of these digital transformation and upgrades and IT projects fail to meet their stated objectives. That's some great reporting that we put together from a couple different analysts out there in the market, Gartner being one of them. A lot of these product and endpoints will fail, not fail from a hey, they're going to get breached, but hey, they fail from the standpoint of they're not getting the data or the visibility that they thought they were, right? So have the conversation, ask if they need help popping the hood, getting involved in that. Great opportunity there. A differentiator for Quest, where we help, because a lot of people can help with monitoring, alerting. A lot of people can help with event correlation. A lot of people can help sell an endpoint, right? You can sell, I don't care what the antivirus platform is, there's CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Cisco platforms, Fortinet's got products, everyone's got cool products. But actually implementing those and creating the policies around them that help, stop the bad actors or stop the malware from traversing the environment or getting further than just the endpoint. Huge opportunity, right? So if you lose on that sale, I don't care if you were positioning XYZ product and they went with ABC product. Follow up, stay in touch. Some of those deployments are going to have challenges, and your partnership with Quest, we can come in and help tune, update, automate, and help them get the most out of what they've invested in. And then the big thing that we're seeing right now is around API integration. Folks are tying more and more of their systems to different platforms. I was listening to an analyst the other day. He was really surprised around the multi-cloud, people using different cloud systems and different applications that are hosted. One was hosted in Azure, maybe one's hosted in AWS, maybe one's powered by G Suite. This analyst was very, very surprised that there wasn't a consolidation into one of the hyperscalers. Every time you provide access to another SaaS provider, that's a potential breach, that's a potential vulnerability. So helping out auditing those connections, those APIs, is a great opportunity. A lot of people kind of miss that, and that's an area where we, from our app dev division, can kind of help overlay into our managed security division and help with that. So this question right here around do your web, are you auditing your web applications or your SaaS applications? Who's testing that? And do you want us to kind of check out the API? Not a lot of people are doing that. It's good conversation starter if you're looking to be that advisor. We'll send out all this content after the talk today. But these are some of the top reasons we're seeing why clients are staying with providers or appreciative of cybersecurity. We send out messages every week around different security events and incidents that we're seeing, different vulnerabilities. The thing about cybersecurity is it's a little bit of the Wild West, because every application, every single thing that people are using, it's constantly evolving, right? Everyone's updating, everyone's changing. Every time you move forward a little bit in convenience, you can leave a bit of a trail of vulnerability behind you. So have that conversation with your customers around, hey, how are you enabling your remote workers? Are you okay around the security of those remote workers? Every time that you add convenience to your IT stack, just understand you are potentially opening yourself up for vulnerabilities. The cybersecurity practice doesn't have to impede business operations, but at the same time, ask that question. Hey, this is pretty slick application. You got a great interface here. How are you securing this for your end users? How are you managing that? Do you need some help? Would you like someone else to come in and take a look at that? Oftentimes they maybe have it squared away, but it's great to stay in touch and let them know that these types of proactive services are available. And again, we found the two best ways to do it are, don't worry about positioning something new necessarily. Help them with what they have today. Get in there and do a little bit of a checkup. Tell them, give them a little bit of readout on what they have. Be a little bit proactive. But you don't have to charge an arm and a leg to be proactive. And then make sure that they know, in the event of emergency, you have the capability to help out. So, like I mentioned, we do have a incident response, incident containment team that manages 24/7, and we got RSA coming up. There's going to be a lot of new sexy weapon systems coming out there. A lot of new cool features, a lot of new capabilities. But logistics and maintaining operations on a day-to-day basis is not as sexy as the new, capability or microsegmentation or whatever, platform you want to talk about out there. But that's the daily operation that sometimes can get overlooked when you go to conferences and kind of see the latest and greatest thing. So we have our cybersecurity checkup plan. This is on our partner portal. But we also have our cyber defense suite. These go hand in hand. As you're positioning a checkup of what people have in place, the cyber defense suite can overlay a lot of those services that we're checking up on, right? So patch management and backups, this is logistics. This is your daily operations. Patch management, I think the sexiest patch management platform out there these days is, Microsoft's got a great marketing engine around, Intune and autopilot and those types of things. So I'll give it to them. They made application patching and updating sexy. That's cool. But you still got to get it right. You still got to configure it right. You got to need some help with that. So these are part of our cyber defense suite. And then, helping organizations with their firewalls, manage firewall services, manage backups, just log management, things like that. The cyber defense suite and the checkup programs they kind of go hand in hand. And from a platform perspective, there's a lot of different ways you can help people out on an individual building block basis. Doesn't have to be everything, but we're again constantly trying to help people with what they have. So do the checkup, help them with what they have, and then if they need help operating or they want to supplement it with a different platform or something new, we can bring in some of the latest and greatest as a service options for them, or help them acquire whatever technology that they need. And these are services that Quest provides in-house as part of our security operations center and our cyber defense services. All right, so we're gonna get to a couple question and answer session here coming up, but from a takeaway standpoint, it's a constant it's a constant operation conversation. It's never going to go away. Everything's evolving very quickly. From a capability standpoint, with you as a trusted advisor and in there with your clients, be okay just asking the question around what they're doing, in those different spaces. What I like to do is I like to go through our checkups and our cyber defense suite and ask a couple open-ended questions around what they're doing in those areas, and if they're struggling with those, or if they need help, or how they're doing that right now, and really get them talking about their practices, and then obviously let them know you can help. Selling, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I love telling war stories as much as the next guy. Love talking about different types of incidents that we see. It's a little bit of the Wild West out there. I think as professionals, we got to move one step beyond that. We got to have the business conversation. Why does that matter to the organization? Not from hey, you're going to lose your company, you're going to lose your data, or you're going to lose all your customers. But here's a little bit more of a business impact and an operational conversation around, what they're dealing with as a company. ir@questsys.com. It's highlighted in red there as key takeaway number 3. Everyone's going to go through some type of an incident. Every single customer you have is struggling with this. They're going to need help at some point. So really, it's really, really key to stay in contact with them. We send out messages. If you're interested in receiving our messages, we send out messages, updates, and things that we're seeing in the market every week to our clients and to our partners, saying, hey, here's a current vulnerability. Here's what we're seeing. here's the readout, here's the recommended course of action. Just staying in constant contact with them, because something's going to happen, something's going to shift, and being able to deal with that quickly is really when you get engaged in a cybersecurity engagement. So ir@questus.com. I know I've said that about 20 times so far, but you'd be surprised how many times I talk to partners and they're like, I didn't really know you guys were involved in cybersecurity services. And yeah, we've been doing it for about 25 years. It's a big part of our disaster recovery and cybersecurity and managed SOC practices. So that's it for the presentation today. I know we had a lot of good questions
Adam,
in beforehand. So yeah.
hey, real quick, Adam, that email address is ir at what?
ir@questus.com, Paul. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Appreciate it.
Just wanted to make sure I got it. Just want to make sure I got it right.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we got a lot of great questions. First, Adam, if I had a sound effect for applause, I'd play it, but I don't. It was really great. So that was very helpful. So I know we've done a podcast for 75 episodes now, and yeah, I'm still learning a lot. So this has been helpful. So we got a lot of good questions. Let's dive into it. Adam, first one comes from Mark at Gigax. Dear Adam, how do I cut through the clutter and start in a place that's accessible for the customer? And also, how do I get the sales process going with a non-technical exec leader so they can get on board?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Mark. And a couple ways we'd like to start. So we talked a little bit about the checkups, right? So hey, it's $775 to take a look at their firewalls or to take a look at their backups, or to give them actionable feedback on what they're doing today. Any leader at any type of size organization, I don't care if it's a 40-person SMB client or a 4,000, small enterprise, $4,000 for all 7 of those checkups, just to validate what their team is telling them is a great, potential value for them. Also, we've had a lot of good success in reputational monitoring, and helping organizations see what the rest of the world views them as, right? So we've had a good partnership with a reputation tool that we use as a service. We provide it as a service on a monthly basis, where we target clients' domains and their partner domains to show them basically what the rest of the world sees them as from an IT hygiene standpoint. It's a similar tool to like what insurance providers use to basically run your IT credit score and your known vulnerabilities. And by the way, it's what the bad actors use to sweep the internet and see who's an easy target. So for executives that are non-technical, hey, do you guys want to run a quick scan and see how your customers and your partners can see you today and see how you stack up against your competition? Because it'll stack rank if it's a industry that if it's healthcare, if it's financial services, if it's manufacturing, if it's IT, it'll stack rank you against that SIC code of your peers, right? So if you're in manufacturing and you're getting a D- on your cybersecurity hygiene from a quick external scan, and this is a couple $100, it's not a big lift. It's not like a full penetration test. Hey, we got to charge $10,000, $20,000 to go simulate a kind of breach on your environment. Those are great starters for conversations and for getting executives engaged. Everyone wants to know how they stack up against their peers.
Nice. Dave McKay with Fortinet writes, Dear Adam, how do you build channel sales in a specific product line as an SME when you're not an SME?
You have a good team. You have the conversation. You see what your customers are dealing with. We've never had a field of dreams methodology here at Quest. Build it and they will come. Some people do, and if you do, I hope you get it right. If you don't get it right, you might have some struggles. So what we do is we listen to customers around what they're struggling with, and then we have an amazing team of engineers and operators basically on our security operations and our different operation teams that can, deal with those requests as they come in.
Nice. So we got a lot of questions. We're just going to keep going. And if we don't get to your question, we can't answer it. We'll email you with an answer. Vincent Cordova from OTG says, Dear Adam, how does your products
Are
compare
they
to
really saying Dear Adam? Or are you
N-
ad-libbing that?
No, that's my ad lib. Nobody's writing
Okay.
Dear Adam.
Okay.
So
All right. Thanks.
I'll get rid of that part. Adam, I'll stop ad libbing. How does your products compare to Fortinet and Palo Alto?
So Fortinet and Palo Alto are partners of ours, right? So we help sell, position, and maintain those products, and those are great. They have great features and functionality and things that can help customers. So we help organizations manage what they have, and we're a VAR, so we help organizations select the appropriate products. So whether it's Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, lots of platforms out there, great capabilities. That's a constant arms race. We don't get involved in that arms race. We work with our partners who are kind of leading those practices and developing those tools. Think more of us as, hey, those are tools that can go out and fight the cybersecurity war. Think of Quest as the operators and the soldiers who can help you go fight that war, right? So whatever tools we have on the battlefield, we're gonna take and help execute, that operation. So the great products, great partners of ours. I'm not sure if, I think some of the partners that were involved in this deal are on this call, but we had an organization that selected a certain product and they wanted it deployed at about 220 locations around the globe. And they had selected the technology, but they needed help managing and operating it and deploying it. So we met with them. We understood the technology platform that they had selected, and we said, okay, here's how we're going to help you deploy that and manage that over a 4-year term. So think of us as kind of that cybersecurity soldiers. I don't necessarily care. Oh, I do care, but it could be an AK-47, it could be an M4, it could be a M14. Basically, if you want us to put rounds through that target, just let us know the weapon system you want to use, and we'll help put some holes in them.
Nice. It's a powerful visual. All right. Next question from David. What is the low-hanging fruit in terms of quick sales, and how can you help point me to them?
Yeah, no. So staying in contact and understanding those pain points, right? So where are people struggling from an operation standpoint? So visualization and seeing what's going on in their environment. A lot of people struggle with that basic monitoring and alerting. Understanding those checkups are a great entry point, right? So just having a conversation around operating and delivering those checkups, whether it's on their firewall, their DNS, their backup systems, those are great entry points for having those entry level conversations. I'd say data visualization, monitoring, alerting, and the checkup services bundle. So
good to know. And Robert asks, can we do OT pen testing for SCADA systems, SCADA systems?
Yeah, so operational technology. So that's a cool environment too right now. There's a lot of vulnerabilities there. So you hear online or you hear on the news, hey, how vulnerable the US's power grid and systems are, water treatment facilities, manufacturing. Operational technology is an area that has been typically air gapped, or at least a significant DMZ created between stuff that can touch the internet versus what can't. That's a very, very specialized practice. We do have some capabilities in that arena where we can help with either that air gap, that DMZ piece of it, or actually getting into the operational technology, the OT environments, and seeing what those systems are. But yeah, Rob, I can we can have another conversation specifically about what I think you're asking, but we do have some consultants and folks who can help out in that space.
Cool. A lot of great questions today. Um, I'm not an SME. What are the typical questions I would get while presenting the Quest Security Scan product suite? And that's from Paul.
So a lot of times questions people ask like, hey, what do the reports look like? Right? What's the, what's the output? Our reputational assessment, we run a quick 90-day, kind of proof of concept for folks if they're interested in it. It's a simple, we get their domain. It takes a little bit of time. We do like to have a bit of a conversation with the client, to walk them through the platform. But yeah, most people ask like, hey, what's the output look like? What's the feedback? What's the cost? If I want to do this as a service ongoing, what's the cost model look like? If I want to do this as an annual scan, what does this actually provide? If it's a technical conversation, they're going to ask like, what do they need to open up any ports or make anything available? From a reputational standpoint, what's nice, and I don't recommend you do this, do not do it without their approval. That can sometimes upset people, but you can do a reputational scan. It's like running a credit check on a business, and it's basically like running their D&B score. They don't have any control whether you scan their domain and their IPs, and get their vulnerabilities. So don't do that. I've had some partners say, hey, let's do this proactively and walk in there and show them all the ways we can help. Not the best way to win confidence with the CISO. They don't really appreciate you calling their baby ugly on the first engagement. So just cautious on that. It is a good idea. It sounds like a good idea. Don't do it. So
Got it. And Brian asks, and I'm not sure if you've covered this. IR is not just for breaches. Can you cover that, Adam? Did we discuss that?
yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. So incident response is emergency response request, right? So like I mentioned, there's a lot of areas we operate in. We're a disaster recovery assistance organization. We get boots on the ground and dispatch people all over the globe for emergency support. So it can't incident response, was built out of the significant rise in cyber crime activities and ransomware that we've seen over the last 5-10 years. But it can be for any type of emergency where you need help ASAP. So if you have a client who, all of a sudden, someone walked out on the job or no longer supporting something, or is, backhoe fade and cut them off from the internet, or they need emergency services on site to help with dispatch of, they lost a tech or something like that. That's an emergency response. So you can use that ir@questsys.com to escalate and get a response very, very quickly. So
Great. Again, great questions. If we didn't get to your question and didn't get a chance to answer it, we'd love to talk to you more after this session. But we're running out of time. I'd like to welcome Darcy in here, who has she's going to make a raffle drawing for $200. Hello, Darcy. I think you're there.
Okay, so I'm double mute there. Yeah, great questions. I did just pull a random name. Paul Petro is our winner today. A lot
Nice.
of great attendees. So thank you all for joining us today.
Cool, Paul.
Excellent.
We got a $200 gift card coming your way. So yeah, congratulations.
Yep, we'll send you an
Congratulations, Paul.
email with the information with it.
Nice. So that wraps up our webinar. But first, Adam, any final insights before any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to thank everyone for your time and attendance today. Really appreciate you. I know everyone's super busy. We would love to help if we can help in any way from a cybersecurity standpoint. Again, ir@questsys.com. If you ever need any help, if you want to have a one-on-one session to dig a little deeper into the checkups or the cyber defense suite, we are going to have a little bit of a proactive reach out after this session. So if you'd like to set up a quick capability review or go into specifics on the cyber defense suite or the checkups to kind of, get that repertoire and get that comfortable engagement there, we'd love to set that up with you. And again, thank you very, very much for making the time.
And real quick, so we will be back. This is the second of 6 in our Bootcamp series on May 8th. We will have how to incorporate infrastructure services into your current offerings. And our partners always seek ways to expand their portfolio offerings and increase revenue. If you want to learn more about Quest Channel Partner Team, and we can help you do that, set up a call. We'd love to discuss more with you. So Adam, Darcy, Justin, everybody here, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on May 8th.